So, let me just ask you another question. Has anybody been to Ninja Warrior UK? Does anybody know what Ninja Warrior UK is? I'm not talking about the TV series, I'm talking about the location you can go to. Has anyone been to one? No, so a few people. Does anybody not know what it is at all? Yeah, brilliant, great. I'm going to show you what it is. The closest one, I think, is Watford. This is what it looks like. There it is. That's Ninja Warrior UK. Okay. That's what happens when you're there. It's exciting, isn't it? It's a great place to go. It's a good, fun place. These are their terms and conditions, basically. Now, what you'll see if you read through that is there's lots of rules that are very boring and quite specific. It talks in that list of distances and drinks and liquids, and talks about whether you have a cast on, or how tall you must be, or how much you weigh. It even talks about bodily fluids. It even talks about death. It sounds like Leviticus, doesn't it? The terms and conditions of Ninja Warrior UK. Now, if you were to pick that up, you don't get a feel for the action, do you? It looks cold and tedious. I mean, it looks awful. But all of this means that actually, when you get there, you can make your way safely into this room that is just full of excitement. It's a room full of excitement. It's basically an adult soft play. There's all sorts of obstacles and inflatables, and you can spend hours in there doing the most exciting things. And when you're in there, you have incredible freedom. Amazing freedom. It's not just a place of rules. You're free to play and have fun and all the different stuff that's there, whatever you want to do. These rules allow that freedom. Now, Leviticus is a little bit like that. When you're reading, I don't know if you found Leviticus chapter 2, it doesn't matter how well it can be read, it looks like a list of instructions, but actually these things free us up to do some incredible things. These words in Leviticus, these offerings, they allow us to safely enter a space where we can do amazing stuff. That's what I want to see. They allow the Israelites to safely enter God's presence where they can do amazing things. So when we're reading it, let's try not to just read the rules. Let's try and picture the action. Picture the stuff that you're able to do once you're inside. So, and this is going to be the grain offering. So you see with the top left picture, the burnt offering one, the grain offering, the second one, the grain offering. And we're going to see what happens during the offering. We're going to see what's special about this offering, and then we're going to see how it relates to us today. And we're going to begin with our tabernacle. Again, like last time. So if you want to imagine this half semicircle, the semicircle is half circle here in front, that's going to be our tabernacle courtyard. Okay, and we've got the courtyard here, and the picture is the tabernacle itself. So all of you, apart from our lovely front row, you're outside. You're outside the tabernacle courtyard. You can see it, it's there. All you'll see is this massive walled curtain, and you're outside of it. And remember, outside of the tabernacle is outside of God's presence. Where we are here, this is a place of darkness. Inside there is a place of light. Outside here is a place of sin, of not knowing God, of being away from Him. And inside, that is light, and that is life, and that is being in God's presence. Okay, this is all we did the last 2 weeks. And we want to get in. And if you remember last week, all you need to do is you walk to the entrance of the temple courtyard where the curtains are, and you bring an animal, and you slit its throat, and by its blood, you're allowed inside. Okay? Isn't that fantastic? That's what we saw last week. That's the burnt offering. It gets you into God's house. Listen, I'm now in the courtyard of God's house. So now what? Now what do I do? I'm not going to leave, am I? Now that I'm in, I might as well make the most of it. Sometimes we have this idea that maybe they would have brought their animal to the gate, they would have solemnly atoned for their sin, they would have dealt with their sin by the blood of an animal, and then what? Just walked off? No, get in. Now I'm inside. Wow. There's loads of stuff I can do now that I'm in here. If you were to look around when you were inside the temple courtyard, you would have seen that it is a place of excitement and colour and noise, and there'll be people praising God and singing psalms, and there'll be food, and there'll be people doing all sorts of amazing stuff. I want you to picture this. This is the ancient church. This is how they worshipped. This is the place they came to worship. And actually, we can learn a lot from the ancient Israelites about how we should do church as well. Now you're inside, there's plenty of stuff that you could be doing, including two main offerings. Two main offerings now that you're in the tabernacle courtyard. The grain offering and the peace offering. Now, the peace offering is one of my favourite. We're going to do that in 2 weeks' time. Here's the first one. It's the grain offering. Now that I'm in, now that my sin has been dealt with, now that I'm in God's house, I can bring the grain offering. I'm not going to leave in a hurry. Am I? So, let me just read chapter 2, the first couple of verses once again. It'll be on the screen, but you can look at your Bibles here. It says this: when anyone brings a grain offering to the Lord, their offering is to be the finest flour. They're to pour olive oil on it, pour incense on it, and take it to Aaron's sons, the priests. The priest should take a handful of the flour and oil, together with all the incense, and burn it as a memorial portion on the altar, a food offering, an aroma pleasing to the Lord. The rest of the grain offering belongs to Aaron and his sons. So firstly, I just want you to see what is distinctive about this offering, the grain offering. What makes it different to the burnt offering that we saw last week? Let's spot the difference, basically. And there's three things I want you to notice that's different about it. The first thing is this: there's no animals. There's no blood here at all. It says that you bring flour and oil and incense, and the priest burns it on the altar. There's no animals at all involved in this offering. That's the first difference. The second one is this: it doesn't all go to God this time. Notice some of this goes to the priests. The priests get to keep some. That's a really important detail, because this is how the priests get their food. You see, the priests, they don't have their own stuff. They don't have their own crops. They don't have their own animals and cattle. They have no way of getting food apart from by this offering. This offering gets brought, and some of it goes to them, and that's how they eat. They don't have time to provide for themselves. They are too busy mediating for you. They're mediating between God and his people, constantly, tirelessly working the temple. They don't have time to get food. This is how they get their food. That's the second difference to the burnt offering. Thirdly, notice, it says when someone brings this offering. Do you get why that's important? When somebody does this. You don't have to do this. This is not compulsory. This is not something that you have to do if you want to be saved. It doesn't save you. I'm going to ask quite a personal question. I'm going to have to be really careful here. John, do you buy flowers at Janet?
Of course.
Yeah? Yeah, great. And do you buy flowers for?
From time to time.
For Shirley, from time to time. Okay, so maybe not as often as it was. I'm really nervous asking this in case it's do you buy flowers?
Yeah, just bought it.
Oh. When was your anniversary?
Night of April.
Oh, it was recently. It's my sister's birthday. Oh, great. Did you buy flowers for? Yes. Oh, there's a lot. Okay. I was hoping that somebody said no. I wouldn't feel left out. Do I buy flowers for you? Not very well. No. But here's the thing, right? I'm going to defend myself and those who maybe didn't say all the time. We're still married. We're still married. We're still married, right? Okay, if you buy flowers, that's brilliant, but it's not going to make you more married. If you don't buy flowers for somebody, it's okay. You're still married. It's not compulsory to do that, is it? Now, the offering, the grain offering, it's a bit like that. It doesn't save you. It doesn't make a difference to your atonement. We just learned that word at one point. It doesn't change whether you are at one with God or not. It doesn't pay for sin. Why? That's already happened. That's what got you in the first place. Now that you're in the courtyard, you can't be any more in, can you? I am saved. It's done. I can't add to that. I am physically in God's house, but now that I'm here, maybe I want to bring a gift. Maybe I want to bring an offering. It's not compulsory. But the original name for this offering is a tribute offering. That word tribute is used all the way through the Old Testament for where people would visit a great king. You know, think Solomon. They would bring tribute whenever they visit him, a gift when they see the king. Now, you have just entered the house of the King of Kings. You've entered the house of a great king. Maybe you want to bring tribute. Maybe you want to bring a gift. Now, I want you to notice this it's amazing, really. There's so much freedom here. How do I want to display my thanks? That's what this is. This is thankfulness to the king. How do I want to display my thanks? Well, look at my options in verse 4 to 7. I don't have to bring separate ingredients of flour and oil. I could bake a cake, it says. You know, I could make biscuits, I could fry something on the griddle, I could bake it in the oven, I could use a pan. Whatever I fancy, I could change it up each time if I wanted. Now that I'm in, I'm free to do loads of stuff. Of exciting things to bring a gift to the king. Why? Because I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful that I'm in. I'm so thankful that I'm saved. I'm so thankful that I am at one with God now. I want to bring a gift. Maybe you're an Israelite who's not had a particularly good week. You feel far from God. You've been really struggling. But you look up and you see the tabernacle and you think, hang on a second. I don't need to feel far from God. He's right there. I can go see him. I can go be with him because he's given me the burnt offering. And the burnt offering means that I can enter his presence. And so you sacrifice an animal and you come inside and you pray and you can sing in his house and you can be near with God. You're just so thankful. Isn't it amazing, you think? You know, look at me. Look where I'm standing. I'm standing in God's house. Little old me. Standing in the house of the King of Kings. Isn't the burnt offering amazing, you think? Wouldn't you? You go, wow, isn't the burnt offering amazing? The burnt offering made me acceptable to God. It took my sin. And I just want to say thank you, so I brought a cake. I brought a cake. And some of the cake can go to God because he deserves it, because he's done it. But actually, priests, you can have some of my cake as well. Share it amongst yourselves because I'm grateful for you because of what you've done, I'm allowed in as well. Now, God deserves it most. But priests, you have some of my cake as well. That's the great offering. This gift of thankfulness. Because look at where I am. And it doesn't have to be so grand as that. Maybe you're just an Israelite who had a bumper harvest and you want to say thank you. Maybe you had a new lamb, a great week, and you want to say thank you. So you can go to the tabernacle. Because of the burnt offering, you're allowed inside and you can give God a gift. Did you get the picture? It's a great offering, isn't it? It's not compulsory. It doesn't save you. The burnt offering always comes first. That's always the one that saves. That's the one that gets you into the entrance offering. But what you find is that when people have experienced the burnt offering, they want to say thank you. They want to bring a gift. Last week we looked at Jesus on the cross, Jesus dying once and for all so that we can be free from sin, so that we can know God. And that kind of thing, a bit like for the Israelite from a moment ago, that's the kind of thing that makes you say, wow, look at what he's done for me. Look at who I am now. I am saved. I am forgiven. Look at where I'm standing. Little old me. I am loved. I'm in God's family. I'm part of his people. I can know him. I can know his love. because of the death of Jesus, and when you've experienced for yourself the sacrifice of Jesus, the saving power of it, that's the kind of thing that makes you want to say thank you. Thank you for saving me. And the New Testament writers, this comes up a few times actually for them. They reference this offering specifically, and they mention it in two big ways. Two big ways that the grain offering, the Bible says, still applies to us today. Firstly, and most briefly, the first way it applies to us today is by giving to those in ministry. See, a big part of the grain offering is the community sacrificially putting aside food to take care of the physical needs of the priests. And Paul actually draws on this parallel quite strongly in 1 Corinthians 9. This is what he says. Do you not know that those who are employed in the temple service get their food from the temple, and those who serve at the altar share in the sacrificial offerings? In the same way, the Lord commanded that those who proclaim the gospel should get their living by the gospel. See, Paul says, look, these are Jesus' words. And here is one aspect of Leviticus that Jesus said should continue today. And it's giving. And this isn't some church tax. Notice, this is directly related to the grain offering. And Paul suggests that because it's related to the grain offering, we don't give because we have to, we give because we are thankful for the cross. Because we've been saved. Because we're excited by what God is doing, because we've had our lives touched by His grace, and so by our gifts, we hope more people will have the opportunity to hear and respond to the gospel. On Sunday, we're going to have a family meeting after the family lunch, and everyone here is welcome to come to that. You might have seen John put a WhatsApp message out recently, and it's all about our finances. And so you can find out exactly what it is that we spend money on, and we are grateful. And John repeated this in the message. We are grateful for a treasury team. We're grateful for those who do give and do support this church. And I encourage you, stay after church next Sunday and hear about some of the areas of ministry that have been made possible through your gifts. Gifts that come from an overflow of thankfulness. But more than that, Paul really, he's talking about the daily ministry of a full-time ministry. And so I suppose it's an opportunity for me as well to say thank you. Thank you for giving to support myself and my family. Because just like those priests, the only way that people in this country can be set aside for this work is by the thankful giving of God's people. Which itself only comes from experiencing the forgiveness that comes from the blood of Christ. That's one way that the New Testament talks about the grain offering. In giving to those in ministry. But it's not the only time. Secondly, it also says that we should be giving your life to God. Giving your life to God. And this is Romans 12. I'm going to read the first couple of verses. Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Let me just explain. Romans chapters 1 to 11, and I'm hoping we can see this next term. These 11 chapters that come before this, the amazing section that basically talks about how you can be saved. How you can be saved. How you can know the mercy of God. How you can become one with Jesus. It's this section all about God's love and grace and forgiveness, but most importantly, it's a section about the death of Jesus. How the death of Jesus makes all of that possible. In other words, Romans 1 to 11 is the burnt offering. It's the way to be saved. And then you get to Romans 12. Romans 12 is the thank you. It's the thank you that comes from knowing the first 11 chapters. It's the grain offering. Do you see? It even uses the Leviticus language. A sacrifice pleasing to God, it says. It's the same words. Basically, because of what God has done in chapters 1 to 11, because we are so thankful for what He's done, because it's so incredible, chapter 12 says, in view of God's mercy then, bring a gift. Bring an offering, it says. Bring a sacrifice. Say thank you. Bring a gift. And do you know what that offering is today? Do you know what the gift is today that you are asked to bring if you are thankful? It's not grain or flour or bread. It's you. It's you. Bring yourself, it says. Offer your bodies as a living sacrifice. It's giving over to God who you are and what you do in your life. That word holy that it uses, it just means set apart for God. It means that you belong to God. And there's wonderful freedom in this offering. Just like there's freedom in what kind of cake you bring or biscuits, there's freedom here in your offering as well. How you bring yourself. Because wherever you are, and whatever situation you are in, you can give that over to God. Yeah, maybe you play sports. Maybe you go to Monday night football. What does it look like at Monday night football to say, I am set apart for God here? I'm going to live in this hour for Him. What does it look like to walk into your workplace and say, I belong to God. I'm going to live in a way this morning that pleases Him because I'm thankful. With my difficult family situation, what does it look like to say, I'm going to live in a way that shows people I belong to Jesus? I'm going to love them. As hard as it is, I'm going to love them because I'm so thankful for how much I've been loved. In your relationships, what does it look like to say, this relationship belongs to God. I'm going to give it to Him. It's a sacrifice. My body belongs to God. And what I do with it belongs to God. I want to please Him. Because of what God has done, I want to live a life that's for Him. And the amazing thing is, it says there in Romans 12 that it does please Him. You can please Him. My life, my acts of service are pleasing to Him. God loves it when you live for Him, it says. It's an aroma pleasing to Him. And often that means living differently. If I'm set apart, if I'm holy, then that means I'm living differently. You know, I want to try to not be selfish. I want to try to not get angry. I want to try not to hate or be jealous. I know it's hard, but I want to try because that's not how God made this world. That stuff comes from sin, and He saved me from sin. He's done it, it's finished, the burnt offering's happened, Jesus has died, so why am I going to go back to that stuff? The Romans 12 passage continues by saying, don't conform to the pattern of this world. Instead, I'm going to offer my whole life to Him because the death He died for me. He's already given more than I can possibly offer. And this way of living, I know it doesn't save me. I know it doesn't save me. I know that I'm already in. I know that it's already done, but it's one of the wonderful things that flows out from knowing Jesus. Not only can you have sins forgiven, you can have a life transformed. And actually, you will see it in people. This is a marker, the Bible says. How you live is a marker of whether somebody has experienced the forgiveness of Jesus. Because then they will live a life for Him. Not because we have rules to follow, not because, I have to if I want to get to heaven. It's not true. You're already in, remember. You already made it inside. I want to do this because I'm thankful because this is how God treated me. I can't describe any other way how thankful I am other than trying to live it out for others. I'm going to try and be loving because God loved me. I'm going to try and be selfless because of how He gave Himself. I'm going to try and be humble because of how He humbled Himself. I'm going to try and do all that with my whole life. I'm going to give it to Him. Offer your bodies as a living sacrifice. Don't conform to the pattern of the world. You're set apart. And look, I realise that this is hard. I mean, it's described as a sacrifice, isn't it? You have to give up something. It is hard. It's handing something over. And you're not just handing over some cake that you made, you're handing over your life. I realise it's hard. You're saying this isn't mine anymore. You're saying this belongs to you, God. It's an offering. I'm offering this to you, God. Are you offering your life to Him? Are you offering your life in all these different areas to Him? And you might be thinking, I'm really struggling with this. I think I am saved, but I can't seem to see any change. I'm trying to live for God, but I fail all the time. I think I'm a Christian, but I just seem to still be the same. I make the same mistakes. I repeat the same sins over and over again. Look, if you're looking for change in your life, and you can't seem to see it, or if you just want to feel more thankful because you're really struggling to feel it at the moment, you're struggling to feel thankful to God, well then this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. You need to go back to Jesus. You need to see how incredible, you need to see afresh how incredible the cross is. That's the only way. Thankfulness and a changed life only flows from Jesus. The grain offering only comes when you've experienced the burnt offering. If you try and be thankful without the cross, you're going to fail. If I was to read Romans 12, 1 to 2, over and over again to try and become a better person, do you know what would happen? I wouldn't change. I'd just beat myself up. If I was just to sit there and go, right, Josh, don't conform. Don't conform. Be good. Be better. Work harder. Be good. Give your life. Why am I not getting any better? Why am I not doing good? Why am I still doing sin and awful things? I'd just be beating myself up. It wouldn't work, would it? That's not going to change me. Just repeating those verses is not going to change me. Just knowing I need to do better is not going to change me. The thing that's going to change me isn't reading those verses over again. No, what this says I need to do is read Romans 1 to 11 over and over again. If I'm going to dwell on something, dwell on the cross of Christ. Read about Him over and over and over again. Read about the cross. Keep reading about the cross. Because this stuff only happens in light of God's mercy. It's because of His mercy that I see a transformed life. It's because of His mercy that I become thankful. Having God's mercy right at the forefront of your minds, that's what leads to this offering of your life. When you see what He has done, when you see His death afresh, thankfulness will flow from it. A changed heart will flow from it. We never move away from the cross. We never move away from what God has done. He has saved us. And when you are fully aware of that, or even in greater detail aware of that, then you can live your life as a sacrifice pleasing to Him. The last song we're going to sing, it gets the order right here. It's great, really. It says that basically because of Jesus, because of who He is and what He's done, that's why we offer up our lives. These are two verses that go back to back. It says, come see His hands and His feet, The scars that speak of sacrifice. Hands that flung stars into space to cruel nails surrendered. That's his sacrifice, isn't it? That's what he's done for you. And then it follows on from that saying, oh, this is our God. This is who he is and what he's done. The servant king, he calls us now to follow him. To give our lives as a daily offering of worship to the servant king.